Welcome back, Southern California, AM 1220, FM 98.1, KHTS, and watching online, hometownstation.com. Dave, got a great guest.
Yes, this is one of the best. This is a great guy to talk to, especially right about now.
Yep. Joel Volk. Joel Volk is president of Mercury Document Imaging. I've known Joel. Look, Joel at the beginning of time was my copier guy. Let's just be honest, right? They didn't have all this fancy stuff.
Right. It was just copiers back
Yeah,
then.
a copier, and then his machine did some faxing, and then all of a sudden his machine doing some fancy stuff.
Yeah. Those things do everything.
Scanning, storage, all these different types of solutions. Joel, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Fred. Thanks, Dave. How you doing?
We're doing good, man. We're doing real good.
Love to have. Did you know that Joel also hosts a podcast?
Yeah. It's Joel, Small Biz Cast, right?
That's correct. Yes, it's for entrepreneurs in business. It's the human side of running a business. We all know that it's very lonely at the top, wherever the top may be, and the purpose of the Small Biz Cast is to kind of tell those human stories, letting you know that you're not alone, and learn something along the way and with some laughs. So we've had some great guests, people that I've learned a lot from, and I'm really excited that it's come at a time when it's helping small business, which of course small business got the blunt force trauma of this COVID thing more than anybody, and so it's of comfort to people in business, to be sure, and I'm proud of the show.
So Dave, it's a podcast,
right?
So remember in the days that they'd say, you have a face for radio.
Absolutely.
Now they say you have a face for
podcast.
For podcast.
Yeah. It makes sense.
This is why this works perfectly for me.
All right, let's talk about working from home. Some of the technologies you're seeing. Look, we have half our workforce from home, Dave, right now, and we got the other half of the office and individual offices with the door shut. What are you seeing out there? What are your entrepreneurs investing in right now to have a more efficient workforce?
Well, immediately the big concern is getting people working. So having access to the documents people have at the office from your home computers, making sure that that access is appropriate, that the trusted people you have in your business are seeing the things that they're supposed to see. For instance, you don't want the people you trust the most to see HR documents, even though it has nothing to do with trust, it has to do with privacy. You have to protect those. So we have software for that. People are taking printers home, but of course space is of a premium at home. So we have commercial quality printers and copiers are going home. But I also think the optimism here is that we've always had technology to not print that much. And as much as my company has been part of the print revolution, it's good that we don't print anything more than we need to. And so I'm proud to say that customers are starting to understand they've had technologies and processes in place, and now they're printing less. And so that's good. That's good for the carbon footprint. It's good for the world. And because technology is always changing, it doesn't scare me as somebody in the business. I just know that there's more different solutions to solve. So if print isn't the future, then so be it. But we still have to print, and we have to have good tools to do that. But managing for the future, as we start to prepare for our offices and our staff coming back to work, one of the biggest fears is touching shared technology. And so we've been installing voice-activated copier controls on anything Xerox. We're a Xerox partner, and a device kind of like the Alexa device. Ours is called Gabby, and it's much more secure than Alexa. It has no digital footprint, so it can't be hacked. But it's all voice command, very, very complex. You can say, make me 4 copies of this and scan it over to Dave, and it will do just that.
Wow.
With almost no touching. It's really fantastic. So it takes away that fear of coming back to the office and touching things other people touch.
That's interesting because I thought it would be just a more efficient tool. Like instead of having to walk and, I'm kind of like that old boss I see on the commercial where he walks in and he tries to figure out how to change the toner in the copier.
Yeah.
And then a half an hour later, he's got toner all over himself.
I would love it if you could say, "Hey, toner, change yourself." But
that'd be great.
Well, right now I go to there's like a computer screen on the copier. It's supposed to be just print,
That's not anymore.
And there's all these buttons, and I'm like, Angie, will you make a copy of this for me? What happened to the old day? Well, that's good, and I think that they've become more affordable because we've outfitted one of Joel's machines to Jolene at her home office.
Right.
And it worked out fantastic. It scans. It does everything. If you could, look, you could always go to your local Office Depot, Staples, stationery store, whatever it is, right? Whatever you got in your neighborhood, and you can get something. But if you need anything that's of even low capacity,
Right.
it's much less expensive to invest in something with Joel's company because of the cost per copy.
Absolutely.
Would you address that, Joel?
Sure. In our world, like cost per copy, or now we say cost per image agreements, means that instead of buying the toner, which if you buy a machine at the Home Depot or Office Depots of the world, you're going to pay for a black and white page 10, 12 cents a page, and the color you'll pay 75, 80 cents a page in terms of what toner costs. It doesn't include service or anything like that. In our world, we charge you about a penny for black and white and maybe 7 or 8 cents for color, and it includes all the toners, all the drums, all the services, everything you might need to keep the equipment running well. And because your print volume varies with the amount of business you're doing, the months that you have bigger bills means you probably did more business than the months you had smaller bills. So it's going to follow your cash flow. It's going to be appropriate to your cash flow needs. When you're busy, you'll have more money, and that'll cost you more money anyway because you printed more because you did more business, and vice versa. So that's the premise behind it. It's kind of a, you don't have to worry about anything. It's all on us, and we want to be fluid. So when we come out and there's a service problem or a challenge, we want to be able to fix it without having to ask you permission to spend your money. We want to just fix it, and that allows us that fluidity to serve the process and serve the customer.
Yeah, Joel, so I have a question for you because, I mean, I know you're passionate about small business, and that's why you have your Small Biz Cast podcast.
Yeah.
My wife runs a small business out of the house, and I'm constantly running over to Staples to get those freaking inkjet cartridges. How small of a business can you help? I mean, is it a 1 or 2 person, or does it have to be like a certain size for you guys to really come in and make it viable?
Let me give you some context. So about a month ago or 2 months ago, gasoline was about $3.50, $4 a gallon, correct?
Right.
How much do you think a gallon of ink at the inkjet cartridges cost? Just take your best guess.
Well, if it includes me going over there, it costs about $1,000.
You're off by about 3. It's about $4,000 a gallon because there's only about 35, 40 milliliters of ink in those cartridges. And so
wow.
that's why the manufacturers can sell a $200 copier that uses ink and sell those cartridges because they make it all in a cartridge.
Right.
So we're able to help businesses of all sizes. We manage accounts with 1 unit and manage accounts with hundreds of units, and we do it one serial number at a time. So we're really agnostic to the size of the company. We're set up to manage the machines by the serial number and by what they need. We've got a big enough footprint in California that we have technicians all over the road, and it's not really a matter of how big the customer is. It's a matter of are they under a service level agreement, which allows us to respond in an amount of time, and the pricing stays about the same. There's some difference of scale. If you're buying hundreds of machines, you're going to pay a little bit better price than the guy buying 1 or 2.
Right.
But in terms of service, we're really competitive. We know that we're competing against the Office Depots of the world, which are really easy to compete against.
Yeah,
so.
and it's interesting, and we're going to jump to a quick break here in a minute and then ask them to come back. But it's interesting because, $200, you get a good printer, it works,
right.
and great, and sounds good. But then you got to buy a cartridge once every 2 weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's really expensive.
Yeah.
So, Joe, we're going to jump to a quick break. But when we come back, I'd like to talk to you about tips for small business and how the entrepreneur can be more agile and more relevant than ever before. So you mind coming back?
Of course. Look forward to it.
Awesome. Thanks. You're listening to AM 1220, FM 98.1 KHTS, and watching online, Facebook, KHTS, and hometownstation.com. The show is Fred Arnold. We'll be right back.